So in today's call, so we are going to explore the possibility of converting your existing REST API workloads into a fully functional MCP server. Okay, so let's quickly look at why is this needed. I believe everyone here knows what's an MCP server, or rather the protocol. So MCP protocol was announced by Anthropic somewhere around late 2024, and ever since this has become sort of the de facto standard for integrating the LLMs with the enterprise apps. Okay, I think every now and then you hear tech companies announcing their own MCP server. So this is super critical. Similarly, I believe the people here know about what's APIM. So APIM is Azure API Management from Microsoft. For a quick recap, this is heavily used in enterprise scenarios again. So for things like rate limiting or forward proxy, multiple auth provisioning, so on and so forth. So this is really sort of a super, like a powerhouse for doing API integrations. Okay, now let's see why these two together create a very sort of a formidable combination. So if you ever try to create an MCP server on your own, you need to know honestly a lot of things. You need to know the Python language to begin with, all the Python libraries. Then you need to set up an app service, write all that code, host it on an HTTP, then worry about the governance and scaling and all of that. But if you use that with an MCP, you don't have to worry about either the governance or the scaling or the infrastructure part because the APIM provides this as a separate layer. Okay, and regardless of what underlying product you are trying to sort of manage, that layer stays the same. So whether you are trying to govern an MCP server or a simple HTTP like a JSON web API, it's still the same. Okay, you want to do certificate based authentication along with OAuth 2.0 or a simple basic authentication, all of that is available through that one single layer. Okay, so there are more slides, but probably okay, a little bit about me. So I'm currently working as a principal architect in Kerv Digital UK. Okay, my main focus areas are dynamic CRM, CE, and Power Platform. Okay, previously I worked with Microsoft, roughly around 18 years of experience, and I'm also part-time like a fitness trainer. So in today's scenario, okay, so the today's scenario that we are going to cover is basically a small sales scenario. So you know what, let me, in the interest of time, let me quickly jump to the code part. Hope you're still seeing my screen. So this is a function app on your screen. It has 1, 2, 3 endpoints. So we are going to create contact in Dataverse. This is a HTTP endpoint, mind you. Okay, then we are going, we can do the search of the contact by email, and then we are going to create the opportunity. So this is a function app. Okay, this function app, as you can see, is already deployed in my Azure subscription. So we have 3 operations. We have create contact, create opportunity, and search contact by email. So this is, as of now, this is just a web API. Okay, so let's do a little quick check here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this little PowerShell here that will call our contact creation post endpoint. Okay, so this is going to create a new contact, George Anderson. So let's quickly run this. So I will say /script and create contact PS1. Fingers crossed. So George Anderson is in the system. So we got the contact ID created. Now if I go to CRM and if I refresh my view, okay, so we have the contact created. So this right now is just a web API. Okay, so you saw we have a function app code, and then that is deployed in Azure, and that can be called from like any HTTP client like Postman, and that is done. Okay, one more quick thing. okay, about this function app, that's not what I wanted to highlight, is the authentication part. So if you see this function app does not store any sort of credentials. Okay, so there is no username, password, or client ID, client secret stored anywhere. This relies on managed identity. So we have hosted this in Azure. So Azure creates a function app artifact. Okay, then we turn on the managed identity, so that gives you an enter ID app, and then that enter ID app is imported as an application user in Dataverse, okay, with the system admin privilege. So long story short, this connects your Dataverse to this function app without any party sort of storing or trying any Azure key vault and managing that Azure key vault, nothing of that sort. So it's all managed by managed identity, and the Azure framework takes care of the certificate routing and certificate refresh and things like that. Okay, so so our function app code based, this is ready. It's deployed in Azure. So, and this is ready. We saw we can create a contact. Okay, so now comes the real game. So okay, so we create an APIM instance. Okay, so quick overview of this APIM instance. This is absolutely free. If you host a developer instance, it's absolutely free, but the good part is that you get everything, okay, in a limited fashion, of course, but you get all the features. So you can create workspaces, you can create APIs, and then you can see this little thing, MCP server. You can do that with the developer subscription, developer SKU as well. Okay, so the step one to do this integration is you need to import your function app and make it an API. Okay, so when you click on this APIs tab, you see there's an add an API option, and then when you click on this add an API option, you see this laundry list of services that you can import your API from. So OpenAPI, WSDL, OData, HTTP, WebSocket, and then the standard Azure offering, which is App Service, Function App, Container App, and Logic App. Okay, so in our case, we'll import a function app. I have already imported, by the way. So you can see on this this side we have this sales MCP API, but I will just show you how we do this. So you click on function app, then you browse your function app, then you click on select, and it will show the list of all the all the function apps that you have. So we select that Dataverse MCP and then click on select and then do this. Okay, so once you do this, you will start seeing your API with all the operations imported as is. So if I quickly go to the contact, you can see we had 3 in the code: search by email, create contact, and opportunity, but we have 4 in the APIM because one of our endpoints supports get and post both. So search contact by email can be like a queried on like HTTP GET, as well as you can post to that endpoint. Okay, so once you import the API, you import all the contracts, and that's your basic API created. Okay, now let's start going into the AI world a little bit, step by step. So step number 1, I think those who have worked with MCP servers, or rather the general, like the larger LLM area, they know how important the prompting is. Okay, the instructions are, the clearer your instructions are, the better the LLM performs. So the same applies here, but we will try to sort of avoid flooding the Copilot Studio, which is going to be the consumer of this API MCP server, with a lot of instructions, and rather try to use the APIM sort of platform, okay, to provide the instructions. So you add your API, you have your operations listed, pick an operation, click on it, click on the front end. Okay, once you click on the front end, you can see that it opens the details pane. Okay, and there you see I have described this as best as I can. So so this is not like natural language, natural English. I have sort of tried to give it a technical representation. So this is a JSON basically. So it has a summary. I have described this in detail, and then I have also said that what's the JSON payload looking like, and then what's the response in case of success or in case of failure. So everything is in this JSON. Okay. So this way I have created the descriptions and the details for all these endpoints. So if I open this, you will see a detailed JSON. Now there is a bug here. Okay, the bug is that this text box that you see here is practically limitless. Okay, so you can pump in as many characters as you want. You can really go in super details. But when you import this in Copilot Studio, the Copilot Studio is, oh sorry, my bad. So when you import this in the MCP server, which is our next step where we are going to go, and that's where it only expects 1000 characters of description max. But here you can do a lot. Okay, so that's I think that's a little bug in the APIM. Probably Microsoft might be working on that. Okay, so the function app is set up. Function app is deployed, function app is working. We have now the API management instance has been provisioned. We have imported our function app as an API. So these steps are done. Next step, we go to MCP server, and that's now is the time when we'll convert our REST API into like a MCP server. So once you come here, you will see there are two options. So either you can import an existing MCP server as an MCP server, like behind the API instance, because then you can, as I said, you can use the policies and apply the configuration for like multiple authentications and certificate requirement, or the virtual netting and forward proxy. I don't know, there are tons of options. Okay, so you can do that, or you can expose an API as an MCP server. So that's what we are going to do, because we have already imported our API here. Okay, so I click on export as an MCP, export an API as an MCP server. You can see this is already available, but I will show you how the option looks like. So you click on API, and this brings all the APIs that you have previously imported or created. Okay, so you choose your API. Okay, and then it will list down all the API operations. Now the good thing here is that you don't have to worry about, so let's say your function app exposes, let's say 10 endpoints, but you only want like 5 of them to become your tools for the LLM. So you can do that here. You can just select as many as you want, and then once you are done, then you give it a display name, a schema name, sort of a description, and then you click on create. Okay, product is optional. This is basically another capability of APIM, where you can create a subscription for your product. So you can offer like a gold standard or a bronze standard API access, and then you can create different products for that. Okay, but so this is optional, and once you are done, you click on create, and once you click on create, you create an MCP server. Okay, so this is how your MCP server will look like. You can see it has automatically created the /MCP endpoint. This is HTTP over SSE. Okay, so this MCP server basically can be accessed over HTTP, because those who are aware, there are like two flavors. So one is MCP server over HTTP, and the another one is the standard IO. Okay, for the local machine communication based on pipes. Okay, so we have the MCP server URL ready. If you look at the tools, you see it has imported all the tools. Okay, that we so if you remember the previous screen, it had like 4 checkboxes. So I had previously imported all of them, but here I can like see which ones are available. Now if you see that the description has also been imported, so this is where the bug that I was talking about. If your description in the front end part, in the API part, has more than 1000 characters, this is going to break. Okay, and the error is also not very sort of user friendly. It takes some little bit of work to understand what went wrong, and then you limit it to 1000 characters, and then all good. Okay, so your so your again your function app is ready, hosted, working. Your API is ready. So now you have you have two options to call the same operations. Once without LLM, the standard API way, and now with the LLM that we are going to see. Okay, so our MCP server is ready, fully available over this endpoint. Okay, it does not have authentication, which is absolutely critical. You should not, in at least an enterprise scenario. I don't think I need to talk about this, but everybody will expect some authentication. So I have written two articles that's in the PPT, which probably later can be shared by David. So I have explained how you can do like a API key based authentication, or if you want to do like a full-fledged or 2.0, both the articles are published. You can take a look at it. But right now this endpoint is unprotected. Okay. So with this, now let's head to Copilot Studio. Okay. I have this sales MCP agent. Okay, now this is the beauty. We are going to accomplish a lot with just 3 lines of instruction. Why? Because we gave a detailed description to the APIM platform, and then when we created the MCP server out of our API, it just inherited, imported everything from there. It already knows what to be done. Okay, so all you tell your Copilot Studio is that you are a sales agent which can search contact, and create opportunities. Okay, you need to always use the MCP server that is provided, and if there is anything else asked, you just politely deny. Okay. Now, if we go to tools, you can see the sales MCP server is ready. So for those folks who have not done this, so you click on add a tool, you click on model context protocol, you give a server name, a server description, and then you give the API MCP server URL, which is this. So you copy that, you come to your MCP server, you copy this, and then you can either choose an API key based authentication or OAuth 2.0 based on how your MCP server is set up. Okay, but then you add your MCP server. Okay, let's quickly review the configuration. So MCP server uses maker provided credentials. I mean, there is no yes or no or good or bad about this. It's just based on your scenarios. If you're doing a backend integration using an agent for that, then you do a maker provided, or else if this is a chat based scenarios, then probably you let the end user authenticate with their credentials. Okay, so that's it. So let's look at the tool. So as you can see, the moment you add your MCP server, it has imported all the tools, okay, that it can see. Okay, it can only see 3, 1, 2, 3, because we have only added 3. Okay, so with this, your MCP server is set up, your agent is set up, your backend infrastructure is set up. So it's time to test now. Okay, so what I'll do, I will add I will give it a real, like a natural language prompt, created by somebody who doesn't know anything tech. Okay, so create 2 fictitious contacts, one male and female, male of Japanese origin, female of Egyptian origin, and then create individual opportunities for them. So you copy this prompt. Okay, you give it to the agent, you click go, and then let's see what it does. So it has invoked the sales MCP server. Fingers crossed. My last demo failed. Hopefully this doesn't. So it does, as you can see, it has created two contacts with the fictitious Hiroshi Tanaka and another Fatima Al Rashidi, and then it has also created the opposite. So you see, it not only created the contact, but it got the contact IDs which were created by that that function app endpoint, and then it plugged that whole payload into the create opportunity. You have the opportunity created. Okay, and then finally it summarizes. So you got Hiroshi Tanaka, you got the opportunity for Hiroshi Tanaka, and then you got Al Rashidi and the opportunity for Al Rashidi. So if I go back to CRM, if I go to the contacts created today, and if I refresh, So you got Fatima and Hiroshi. And if I go to the opportunities, and if I open the today's opportunities, and you see the two opportunities. So, so that's how this integration works. I think this is very revolutionary, for a lack of a better word, because you see, I created, I'm just let's say I'm just a function app developer, right? I'm good at creating function app, but now that same function app can like have two branches, one for the LLM and one for the standard API consumption, and both work just as fine. Okay, so with this, I would like to conclude, and thanks everyone for joining.